On today's show,
we break down and predict the Rockets-Warriors up-tempo Western Conference Finals series.
In the East Hawks-Cavs matchup, who will come out on top? The team or the superstar?
And hey, let's get out those ping pong balls. We'll debate who we'd like to see win tonight's NBA draft lottery.
It's Tuesday, May 19th. The starter starts now.
Good evening, Sweet World, and welcome to another playoff edition of The Starters. Whether you're joining us live online, you're listening to the podcast, watching us on YouTube, catching us on NBA TV, happy to have you. I'm Jay Skeets, and alongside me, as always, that's Tass Mellis.
What's the required height for a pop-out? No one knows.
To my right, Starters blog editor Trey Kirby.
Hey-o! Hey-o!
And finally, the international man of mystery, taking it to the max, as he always does, Lee Ellis.
Amigo.
Lily. All right, excited for tonight's show. As promised on yesterday's show, we're talking conference finals. Both of them. We're going to preview and predict them. Let's start in the West. That is game one going tonight out West. It's the Rockets. It's the Warriors. You see their regular season head-to-head matchup. Some people put a lot into this. Some people couldn't care less, but the Warriors won all 4 games by double digits. Now, Dwight Howard wasn't playing in all of those. We like to usually start with our predictions and then break it down, so let's get to that. All of us, I have to admit, not really surprised by this, that all of us are taking the Warriors. Every pick I've seen online today or the last couple days is backing the Warriors. Not a lot of people saying Rockets, but Tass and Lee say Warriors in 5. Trey says Warriors in 7, and I'll split the difference there, go Warriors in 6. So, lots of questions, of course, heading into this series. I think the first one is, the way these two teams play the game of basketball, who do you think that fast-paced, up-and-down basketball favors more? Is there one team that favors more than the other?
I think the Rockets are playing right into the Warriors' hands. The Warriors want to play fast, and they're actually better than the Rockets at it. The Rockets beat the Clippers using that speed, so it worked out well. And the only 2 games that the Warriors lost in this postseason, they were against the Grizzlies. They didn't look anything like themselves because the Grizzlies really slowed them down. They were an unrecognizable team. Lots of bad turnovers. They played slow. But the Grizzlies got the Warriors out of whack because they couldn't handle the Grizzlies system. But the Rockets system is the Warriors system. This is what they do best. I think this is the Warriors' strength. The Rockets are just going to be a little tough playing this system. I don't see how they beat them going fast.
It's like it is for the Grizzlies, though, for the Houston Rockets. They can't afford to get behind early against the Golden State Warriors because we know the Warriors are just so good when they get a good lead. They're 53-0 when they lead by 15 or more. That's including the playoffs and the regular season. And the Houston Rockets, while I think they have more firepower than the Clippers, and they've got Corey Brewer, an example, coming off the bench, I just don't think they can match basket for basket with the Warriors. They have to find a way to slow them down and maybe get them to miss a few shots. And that starts in transition. Their transition defense has to be fantastic.
There might be some intentional fouling. Hacking Bogut, hacking Andre Iguodala. I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
But they might have to resort to it.
Well, if they do that, obviously the Warriors can do that straight to the Rockets. The Rockets have got multiple guys who they can hack.
But that's where the Warriors don't want to do it.
No.
I think, Kerr, first off, doesn't like to do it. I think he knows his team is just better. And Tass said it, just playing that up and down, little free-flowing basketball. I'm with you, Tass. I think McHale at least is going to look how it's going in that first game 1, maybe into game 2. And if he's desperate, and, they're not getting back in transition, I think we'll absolutely see some hack of Bogut.
Yeah, it's going to be really important for the Rockets to get back in transition and find the 3-point shooters for the Warriors because I feel like the Rockets can kind of match them 2 for 2, 2 for 2, 2 for 2, but making all those threes is basically impossible. You have to hope that the Warriors turn the ball over quite a bit because in those losses to the Grizzlies, they did turn the ball over a little bit, and the Grizzlies were able to push it back the other way. That's something that the Rockets definitely excel at.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get to, of course, the 3-point shooting a little bit later here, but let's go to James Harden. It's a fun series because we've got the MVP in Steph Curry and, of course, the runner-up in James Harden. Not that they're going to be playing each other one-on-one a whole lot, but looking at James Harden specifically, how do the Warriors slow him down? Can they have the same success they had in the regular season because of all the guys that they can throw at him?
Yeah, I think the Warriors match up better against the Rockets superstar than vice versa, than the Rockets do against Curry and Clay. They're going to throw a ton of guys at him. You start with Klay Thompson on him. He goes to the bench. Well, Andre Iguodala is going to match up with him. And then another body, I think they're going to frustrate him. You're going to see Sean Livingston on him. You're going to see Matt Barnes on it. It's not going to be a Justin Holiday out there for James Harden. I think it's going to be very tough for James Harden in this series. And then on the other end, who's Harden going to guard? We'll get to that in a sec, but I think it's going to be really tough for James. He's just going to see so many different bodies.
It's imperative on Harden to be super aggressive and to get to the lines. That way the Warriors don't, or the Rockets don't necessarily have to go to hack anybody. They can just get to the line themselves, and that slows the game down big time. That's kind of where they thrive.
Yeah, I think the thing is with James Harden, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Warriors maybe just hang off him a little bit because he hasn't been shooting that three-pointer particularly well so far in the playoffs, and they just want to keep him away from the paint as much as possible because once he gets in there, then fouls do happen. He gets the line. That's how he accumulates a lot of his points. But early on, I think they might just challenge him to say, you make a few shots, and then we might adjust our defense. Keep him out of the paint early, though. I think that's most important.
It does feel like no team is more equipped than the Warriors to play a guy like James Harden.
Yeah.
You just listed all those guys. I mean, as great as Klay Thompson is defensively, you bring Iggy in, he can be a lockdown defender still in this league.
There's just no breaks for him.
And then more length, in
it's
Harrison.
different than Matt Barnes and
Harrison
JJ
Barnes.
Redick.
Yeah, right. Different.
Yeah, it's a lot easier for him.
He's just got Barnes coming at him left and right. And then Sean Livingston in the mix. You're right. It's going to be, I think, a frustrating series, I think, at times for James Harden because you have no rest. There's someone always either sort of rested and still long and quick that can try and stay in front of you. I'm with you. He's got to attack, especially to get Klay into foul trouble.
Oh, yeah.
If he can do that early, that's a huge plus for the Rockets.
And to get Bogut in foul trouble. I mean,
yeah.
That, just like getting DeAndre Jordan in foul trouble was key in round 2, it's the same thing. Get Bogut off the floor.
Three-point shooting. There's going to be a lot, you would think, of three-point attempts in this. Do you think it comes down, one key thing in this is who can just defend that three-point line better?
Of course.
Because the Rockets, as great as the Warriors are, and we talk about them a lot with Curry and Klay, of course, and how well they can shoot the three-pointer, Rockets, especially over the last couple of games where Josh Smith and Corey Brewer and Trevor Ariza have become, very solid three-point shooters, it's a battle here.
The Rockets can definitely defend, and this is going to be the most athletic, deepest team that the Warriors have faced. I think that the Rockets can do a good job of kind of getting the ball out of Curry and Thompson's hands, and forcing Barnes, Iggy, and Draymond Green to beat him. I think you have to be totally into the game and ready to play from the very first moment of game 1 to make that happen, but the Rockets can do it. They've been a pretty solid defensive team the entire year.
It's funny that the Warriors are playing the Grizzlies, a team that they just dared to shoot the three-pointer to the point where guys like Bogut and everyone are just sagging into the paint. Go ahead, shoot it, because the Grizzlies, that's not their strong part of their game. And the exact opposite with the Rockets, you would think. I'm excited to see if they just run those guys off, make guys like Ariza and Brewer put it on the floor, and then try to drive them into your Green and your Bogut's.
Well, you saw what happened there against the Clippers in Game 7. Trevor Ariza got hot, Josh Smith got hot, carrying in from Game 6. I think the Warriors will probably live with Josh Smith jacking up the three-pointers, even though he's been fantastic in the playoffs for Houston. I think they'll be happy to have that because they don't want him down low in the post, perhaps picking up fouls on someone like Draymond Green. I think they'll live with that. But Corey Brewer, it's very important that he comes out, gives them the energy that he's given the Rockets so far, because when he's getting his game on, the Rockets are a completely different team. Their bench unit, their second unit has to play very, very well because we know the Warriors are deep. The Rockets have got good players, but if they're not playing well, then it falls more back onto Harden and to Dwight Howard, and it's a heavy load to carry.
And Trey, you alluded to it. You got to start from the get-go if you're the Rockets against this Warriors team. You can't get down. You can't get down 3-1 like you did to the Clippers, or you're dead. And this isn't the Mavericks. This isn't the Clippers. You got to be ready to play. This is the best team in basketball. And that's why I'm definitely worried about the Rockets. They haven't shown that they can come out with some tenacity right off the get-go and then just handle a really good team. They haven't had to play a really good team yet thus far.
We talked about how the Warriors would try and slow James Harden. Let's talk about how the Rockets try and slow Steph Curry. I'm excited to see what Mikhail does in terms of matchups. Where do you put Harden? Who tries and takes Steph Curry? Is it Ariza? And then when Brewer comes in, does he get that? That's going to be fun to watch because you would think right now when you look at just positions, point guard to point guard, you can't put Jason Terry or Pablo Prigioni on Steph Curry, can you?
Well, I think you do, and then you throw a second body at them, just like the Grizzlies did. You just have a big come guard that pick and roll and get the ball out of his hands. So I don't think you throw James Harden and get him tired on Steph Curry chasing him around. I think that's a mistake. Or even Trevor Ariza, yeah, he'll get on there at some point, but I think you just get the ball out of his hands. I think that's the smartest thing to do. I think they're just going to watch what the Grizzlies did, and that's bring that big out there and make the other guys try and beat you.
Curry had his way with the Rockets during the regular season. Again, depends what you put into that, but shot nearly 52% from three.
He's good.
In the 4 games against the Rockets. Tough matchup.
Jason Terry did a good job on Chris Paul, who probably wasn't 100%, but Steph Curry's a different guy altogether. He's got such great handles. He can shake off any one-on-one defender. They absolutely have to throw a second one at him and just hope that they get beaten by another guy, because they've got so many weapons. Clay, Draymond, all those guys can knock down the threes.
I said the Rockets hadn't played a good team. I made a big mistake. Some stuff happens on live television, okay? The Clippers are a fantastic team.
That's right.
They were just exhausted. They were tired.
Game 1 tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. Ben Gulliver had a great point. Rarely do you see a conference finals that pits a #1 seed with so much to lose against a #2 seed with nothing to lose. It really does feel like that way a little bit. We gotta take a break. When we come back, we jump to the East, preview and predictions for the Cavs and the Hawks. Kaka! You're watching The Starters. Welcome back to The Starters. Looking ahead to the Eastern Conference Finals. See the matchup there. It's the Cavs and the Hawks. After all of this craziness, it's the #1 and 2 seeds in both conferences. Hawks, regular season advantage, taking 3 of the 4 games. Let's get to our predictions. Do we disagree here? We do. A little bit. 3 guys here at the desk taking the Cavs. Tass and Trey have Cavs in 6. Lee says Cavs in 7. And I will go with the Hawks in 7. It's
Homer pick?
What a Hawks, bro.
No homer pick. Yeah, helps maybe that we're in Atlanta here. I think they're going to give them some problems, but we can get into that. It's a fun clash of styles in a way between these two teams, and the LeBron James sort of isolation team and the Spurs light team in the Hawks.
It is sort of like last year's final, where the Hawks have to be operating like a well-oiled machine to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. But I'm very worried about this team because they're not operating near Spurs level.
Is true.
They haven't been recently. Out of the 8 teams in the second round, they had the 5th best offense. The 3 that they were better than have gone home. They just don't look like the team that won 19 games straight. I mean, they can get by scoring 82 points against the Washington Wizards in a Game 5, but this ain't the Wizards anymore. LeBron is feeling great. They've come off 5 days rest. I think Kyrie's going to be feeling great. I'm very worried about the Hawks' chances in this one.
Yeah, in the Eastern Conference, to me, it kind of just comes down to which team has LeBron James and which team doesn't. He's won 14 straight series in the Eastern Conference, so until somebody beats him, I'm happy to pick LeBron's team.
I understand that, but when picking the Hawks in 7, I definitely am banking on them playing better than they've played through the first 2 rounds. I think they can get back there, and I just look at them again to call them the East version of the Spurs light, whatever you want to call them. They do have similar pieces to what the Spurs had there and won, of course, over LeBron in the finals. They just do. They've got a very skilled big man that can step out and shoot. Horford, Duncan. You've got a very physical, and I love this matchup, I can't wait for it, a very physical wing defender to throw on LeBron and at least try and make life difficult. Spurs had Kawhi Leonard. Hawks have DeMarre Carroll, sort of a light version of him. They space the floor well. They can shoot well. I mean, it's similar. And why not? And home court advantage might come into play. There are reasons. That's some of the reasons why I'm backing the Hawks.
Also, you might not get a better chance to beat a LeBron team because Kyrie Irving is probably not 100%. Kevin Love's out. You mentioned home court already. They played them really well during the regular season. And even though Atlanta hasn't played so far particularly well in the playoffs, they're there now. And now all they have to do is get it right against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think they'll go in feeling very, very confident. Other than Cephalosha, they don't have any injury concerns either. Mike Budenholzer, we know, is a fantastic coach. He's done a great job with them this season. So I did pick the Cavaliers in 7, but I really think the Atlanta Hawks are going to play something closer to their best basketball this round.
Do you agree that DeMarre can at least slow down LeBron James, like we've seen a guy like not only Jimmy Butler, of course, in the Bulls series, but Kawhi Leonard in last year's finals?
Is he going to be as good as Jimmy Butler, though? And I worry about DeMarre Carroll on the offensive end now because last round he had to guard Paul Pierce, not a lot of work, or Otto Porter. But then he bailed his team out on the offensive end because this team has not been functioning well. DeMarre Carroll sometimes went one-on-one, but now he's going to have a lot of work to do on the defensive end. So, yeah, he's a very good defender. It'll be fun to watch, but I don't think he does a better job than Jimmy Butler did in the last series.
I agree. He's not necessarily as good as Jimmy Butler, and I don't really think Jimmy Butler slowed down LeBron either because just like Jimmy Butler, DeMarre Carroll can't handle LeBron inside, and we all know when the going gets tough, it's LeBron post-ups and scoring easy buckets, putting up a 38 and 15 in a huge game.
But LeBron, and rightfully so, does get tired of going down there, going to work in the block.
Yeah, but he'll do it when he needs to.
Well, but DeMarre's, again, physical. Millsap will take him at times. He's physical, big guy. I could see that, especially Kyrie. We'll get to Kyrie, whether or not he's effective or not, or how healthy healthy that's huge. Because LeBron to win this series is going to need to get some help offensively.
Yeah, and I think what you'll see is Budenholzer will throw doubles at him when he gets into the post. I think that's what he has to do because he knows that DeMar is not big or strong enough to take LeBron one-on-one, so he has to get that extra help defender. But also DeMar on offense, if LeBron picks him up, he has to make him work that in. So they have to kind of cancel each other out in that respect. That DeMar, we know, can step out and knock down the three-pointer, but he's also good at driving to the lane. As long as he keeps moving just to keep LeBron moving, I think that's a great opportunity for him to help make LeBron tired.
Yeah, you see it. Look at DeMar's numbers. I mean, really impressive. Team leading 17 points per game there, making 44% of his threes here in the playoffs. Phenomenal numbers for a guy on the super cheap when it comes to contract. Let's talk a little bit about size, though. I think that is one issue that the Hawks are heading in here. Depending on what Coach Blatt does in terms of playing Mozgov, playing Tristan Thompson, do you play both of them? Is size a possibility of a risk for the Hawks in this series?
It has been all year, and the Cleveland Cavaliers are the best offensive rebounding team right now in the playoffs with Tristan Thompson starting. Since they found their flow in Game 2, they look great. They are going to make Horford and Millsap pay to a degree. You know, this isn't going to be the key that gets them over the top, but yeah, I think it is definitely going to be an issue with this.
Yeah, I think Thompson and Mozgov just are going to kill the Hawks inside personally, and I think that Tristan Thompson can actually chase Paul Millsap around on the perimeter a little bit. I don't think that's going to be a huge advantage for the Hawks, where it has been having those two stretch bigs throughout the season.
But I think, though, with Millsap and Horford, they've both got a game that can bring their defender away.
Absolutely.
So I think that's key, that if Al Horford's hitting that mid-range shot, which was money against the Washington Wizards, I think that's really important.
That's right, because then, in theory, Mozgov can't play that.
No, he can't.
So if Horford is knocking that down, that means Tristan Thompson probably has to take him, and then LeBron, of course, plays at the floor, which we've seen.
And that's what it's all about. That's Atlanta's game, is spacing and opening up the floor, making it harder to defend. So if those shots are going down, it certainly helps Atlanta's case.
Millsap has never hit more than 1 3 per game in his career.
It's always a big one, though.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
So we are making a bit of a big deal. I think Mozgov will do decent against Horford.
All right. I said it is a huge question heading into this series. How effective can Kyrie Irving be in this series? He says he's going to play and start in Game 1. You said it. He's had quite a bit of time here to rest. That's right. Since aggravating his left leg in the Cavs' closeout win over Chicago. He only played 12 minutes in that game, and he was sidelined the whole second half there. And Dellavedova came in and put Australia back on the map.
Carried the Cavs home.
That's right. But it is going to be interesting. Again, I think they really do. The Cavs really need a healthy and aggressive Kyrie Irving, because if the Hawks are smart, they are going to put him in pick and roll every single time to test.
Yeah, if Jeff Teague wants
that
it,
health.
that's got to be something too. Jeff Teague has to be aggressive if he's going to exploit Kyrie Irving, because there's been times when Jeff Teague will just kind of stand around outside the perimeter, kick it to a guy, go to the hole, man.
We say Kyrie wasn't effective, but he was more effective than Jeff Teague in round 2. And they still won a series with him having 12 points or less in 3 of those 6 games. Can he be worse? I don't think so. He says his legs actually feel better. I think he'll be fine. 5 days off.
All right, let's hear your predictions, guys. Both series, let us know on Twitter, #TheStarters. Again, the Eastern Conference Finals gets underway Wednesday night, but we got to take a break. When we come back, the NBA Draft Lottery is tonight. We'll discuss what to watch for besides Russell Westbrook's retirement. Back with the starters, 2015 NBA Draft Lottery tonight, approximately 8:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, determines the order of selection for the first 14 picks in June's NBA Draft. Though, really, let's be honest, there's not much point watching, as we predicted yesterday by having Trey Bob for Apples nearly drown himself. Yes, that too. Predicted the winner. Eventually, it took a while. Eventually, pulling out the Denver Nuggets apple, meaning again that the Nuggets will probably win the draft lottery tonight. And the Nuggets were quite happy about this, tweeting after seeing it yesterday, "It's official. We love you, Trey."
Hey, I love you back.
And the Suns responded, "That makes one of us. We're just glad Trey didn't inhale all the water in the container." He got very, very close to that.
It's very dangerous.
Here are the actual probabilities at landing the #1 pick for tonight. The Wolves with a 25% chance, followed by the Knicks there at nearly 20%, and the 76ers a little over 15%. Definitely, if you're a Lakers fan, you're a little worried. You don't want 2 teams to jump you because it's a top 5 protected pick. So if it's 6 or higher, it's going to the 76ers. But just for fun here, again, there's no Bulls in this. There's no Raptors in this. I don't even know who you cheer for. You're always changing your decision. Who, as an NBA fan, just in general, do you want to win the draft lottery tonight?
I want the New York Knickerbockers to win. I think I speak for every NBA basketball fan when I say I want the Knicks to be better on national TV next year, because it was horrendous last year.
Fair.
And that's all I'm at. This past year, they were on national TV 23 times. I imagine they will probably be on national TV somewhere around there on a Thursday night. It's my job, and I love it, to watch these basketball games, but I'd love it even more if the Knicks were slightly better.
They were hilarious, though, to watch them this year.
Yeah, you say that. I actually want them to be very good or very bad, not mediocre, which they probably will end up.
They probably will be. What about you, Lee? Where are you going? Who do you want to win this time?
Well, people don't want to see the teams that tanked get rewarded, so I'm going with the Utah Jazz.
Speak for yourself.
Because the Utah Jazz battled hard all season
That's
long.
true.
They were a really good team. They've got a very good young coach. They've got a very good young core. Rudy Gobert was fantastic for them this season. Dante, obviously, as well. In his first season, he was good. Gordon Hayward, he'll be an all-star in the next couple of years. I would like to see the Jazz get now another good player to really build around those couple of guys, and I think they're going to be a very successful team over the next
So, like the
5 years.
basketball gods
Saying,
shining
you work hard,
upon the
yes, you get the first pick.
Less than 1% chance.
So it doesn't matter.
Need a miracle.
No,
Need
it
a
doesn't
miracle.
matter.
All right, what do you got?
My pick's obvious. Between that torrid love affair between me and the Denver Nuggets, I want the Nuggets to win tonight, just so I can seem like a genius. Also, my college roommate was a huge Nuggets fan, and nothing good has happened to him in the longest while. The Nuggets haven't had a top 5 pick since 2003. They've never picked higher than 3rd. And if you look at their team right now, they got a lot of good guys, but nobody that's really great, nobody that you really want to build around. Something nice needs to happen for the Nuggets. They had that great season a couple years ago, then it's been downhill ever since.
I would love to see the 76ers win this draft lottery night. I think it would be hilarious. First off, they've already drafted over the last 2 years 2 giants in Joel Embiid and Nerlens Noel. So what would they do if they got the #1 pick? Would they take Towns and Okafor, another
Or
big
7-1 small forward.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it would be a weird situation. I also am rooting for the fact that they hopefully get not only the #1 pick, but the Lakers, let's say #6 pick, and the Heat's #11 pick. It's been a while since one team had 3 lottery picks. There's a small chance it could happen. But anyway, let's hear from you guys. Who do you want to win this thing? When we come back, we go back to the cage for a VSP. Back to the starters. Lee, no games on in the association last
Doesn't
night.
matter.
So that means we're going to the cage for a very
Yeah.
solid play.
This time it's Geetsy with the lob pass into me over Trey's not outstretched arms. And I knocked it down. Yeah, Trey, you've really got to defend that one a little bit better there. See how I
poor defense.
see how I got the position and then dropped it in, and that's what I call a very solid play. Now, you want to know where I got the inspiration for that one?
Oh, gee, where?
I'm going back to May 21, 1986, Game 5, the Western Conference Finals. Rodney McRae to Ralph Sampson, drops it in.
Oh, yours was cleaner.
Yeah, the score was tied, but the Rockets go on to win that game, eliminate the Lakers, who were going for back-to-back. Couldn't do it.
Put your arms up.
Amazing shot. Yeah, that really was. Akeem Olajuwon got ejected about 9 minutes to go for fighting with Mitch Kupchak in that game. Shout out to Jim Peterson, who was in that footage then.
There you go. And there's a split screen of Trey wearing the Kareem goggles, doing his best Michael Cooper. It got very convoluted
Had
out
to
there.
play 2 roles like Eddie Murphy.
In the cage. All right, Lee. Good stuff. Tonight's schedule, guys. We already went over this. NBA Draft Lottery, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, followed by the Rockets and the Warriors, Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. We'll be back here to break down both of those things, the lottery and the game. Join us at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time here on The Starters, or catch it on YouTube.
Thanks for joining us, folks. And remember, every time someone purposely pauses to say something more worthwhile could have been said.
Embrace the night, people.